welcome to another edition of CalU Connections. I'm your host, Gary Smith, and once again, like I try and do before we start the show every time here on CalU Connections, we here at CalU hope everybody watching at home are making it through these difficult times, and if we can alleviate some of that stress by a little bit of entertainment and education, then that brings a smile to our face. And on this show, what we've been trying to do is connect the greater CalU community to make this big, crazy world a little bit smaller by showing some friendly faces. And we've had some alumni on the show in the past, some current students, and we've also had a couple series of shows with some of the people, the professionals here at CalU that really help to make the students' lives better and help them through. And we have a great show today. We're going to talk about mindfulness with two very wonderful guests, Dr. Dawn Moeller and Dr. Kiana Golphin. And again, we had to redo this, and I know I mispronounced your name, Kiana, but again, we're going to give you a chance to correct my foibles. But first, we're going to bring on Dr. Dawn Moeller. And Dawn, if you would like to introduce yourself to everybody and explain to everybody what you do. And like I said a little bit before, it's nice to see you not in a meeting setting right now.
Yes, good to see you too. So I'm Dawn Moeller, and I'm a clinical psychologist. And I came to CalU Counseling Center right out of grad school initially, and I worked for a few years. And I took some time off to raise my kids. I have two kids, and then I've been back since fall 2004. So it's been quite a long time. Usually we do counseling out of Carter Hall. But recently, of course, we are working with students via the internet. We have a HIPAA-compliant website platform that we use called doxy.me. Seems to be working pretty well. That's it.
And that's excellent. And like I said before, usually when I see you, I'm kind of sneaking into the back of a meeting, or trying to sneak in the back of a meeting. A lot of times I get caught and get set to the front, so it's nice to see you outside of a meeting setting. Although I kind of wish we were in a meeting, because that means we'd be in school and at school and business as normal. But we'll get to all that in a little bit. And I'd like to bring on our second guest today, Dr. Kiana. And Kiana, welcome. We haven't had a chance really to meet or talk before, so it's nice to meet you. And if you'd like to take a few minutes to tell everybody at home your journey to CalU and what you do here at the campus.
Thank you, Gary. I do want to say that you did pronounce my name correctly, so kudos to you for being able to do that. It can be a little bit tricky, so I certainly understand. I am new to the CalU family. I just started actually this past fall. I do come to CalU with a wealth of higher ed experience. I've worked in higher ed for quite some time. However, I more recently finished up my doctoral program and was able to be brought on here at CalU as another counselor to be able to offer services to our wonderful student body. So I'm glad to be here at Cal and glad to be here with you all today.
And it's wonderful to have you here and both of you here at CalU, because one of the themes that have been coming up throughout these shows that we've been doing with the professionals on campus is just the fact that the services that CalU provides to the students, I think, are second to none, and also the family atmosphere. I know it's said a lot that every school says you're not just a number, but that's really true here at CalU, because in any of the services we talk about and we do, we really try to get the students from point A to point B, and I think your office and everything does a great job of that. But the topic of the show, both of you wanted to talk today, is mindfulness. And I know in these trying times, the world has been upended. So could you explain, Dawn, just a little bit the background? What is mindfulness?
Yeah, so actually John Kabat-Zinn gave a great definition of mindfulness, and it's the one that you see most often. So he said that mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. Mindfulness actually stemmed from Buddhist contemplative practices, but the way we practice it in the West, it's been kind of stripped of any kind of religious elements. And I just want to explain a little bit about the definition, just kind of go through the elements. So first we say it's about paying attention. It's really about waking up out of the trance of our own thoughts. We'll talk more about this, but our thoughts tend to be undisciplined and negative, and it's a way of waking up from that. A lot of times it's like we're, in our thoughts, like a ship on a rough ocean or something. We can be catapulted back into the past with thoughts that aren't always that pleasant, or pushed into the future, and worried about the future, or sometimes we have a fantasy about how everything's going to turn around for us. What's missing in this is the present moment. And really, as they say, and as is true, the only time we have is right now. This is the only time we're actually living, the only time we can really fully experience life. But we tend to miss it because we're always thinking about the past or the future. The focus is on the now. And then it says, we're to do this non-judgmentally. And the reason this is so important is because if we step back and take a look at our thoughts, a lot of times they do run negatively, And so we get caught up in all these thought loops, and it stops us from feeling okay, because, those negative thoughts produce all sorts of emotions that aren't necessarily so great. So we tend to think, oh, my life would be better if, or I wish I hadn't, or if only, instead of kind of coming into acceptance of what we really have. And I just want to see, Kiana, at this point, I do want to talk more about kind of thoughts, but did you want to interject anything before I go into thoughts?
No, I think you have really captured the essence of what mindfulness entails, in terms of training ourselves to essentially focus on being present. And I don't think that a lot of people realize that we're not present enough a lot of times, because we are thinking about future events that haven't even occurred yet, or thinking back to past events. And in doing so, it allows us to, or has us to miss out maybe on some important moments that are happening right now, in the present.
And I tell you what, just hearing that little bit of an explanation right there, that really makes me start thinking, because, in the past couple weeks since the world has stopped and we're all kind of sheltered in place and quarantined, people have had a lot of time to think. And I know myself, there have been times I've been sitting there and, you think you just sit there going to relax, but your mind is racing 1,000 times a minute, and you don't really, like you said, you're not really living in the moment. Now, whenever you start using the mindfulness technique, what is the process whenever you're trying to help someone into that technique?
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about like the thoughts, and then that'll kind of lead into technique. So the idea of observing our thoughts, they call it metacognition, and it's like thinking about our thoughts. And mindfulness proponents encourage us to notice our thoughts, but not necessarily to just believe in them or engage with them or follow them. We can see thoughts as thoughts. Sometimes we take our thoughts to be a reflection of reality, or we identify with them in some way. But then if you think, how can that be? Because if I'm really depressed, then I'm going to have depressed thoughts. If I'm really anxious, I'm going to have fearful thoughts. So it's really, it's more like our thoughts come out of this mind that's more like a thought-producing machine, but we believe it. And, the mind just kind of goes, it's based on memory and associations, and it may or may not be helpful. So, they say that nerves that fire together get wired together. So let's say you had a trauma, or even just a mini trauma, like growing up. You can experience, this profound fear and despair over just this tiny little trigger, because the neural circuitry is already there, wired, ready to go. So the smallest trigger, and it's like whoosh, the same flood of emotions and physical reactions just come up and take you over. And if you don't sit back and notice what's happening, it could trigger a panic attack, or even somebody could go into like a clinical depression, just kind of based on this. And so then it does bring up, well, what do you do with that? And mindfulness theorists would say, well, you can't just smash or dismiss the feelings. because what you resist persists. So what if instead you simply step back and notice the negative thoughts and feelings have occurred, accept that they're there. Maybe they're not pleasant, and you accept that. And you just simply don't engage with all the negative mental scripts telling you all these horrible things like it'll never work out. I've never done well. All these things that people say about me are true. With practice, you can just see thoughts as thoughts, and you get disentangled from that constant negative or obsessive thinking. And some people will say, once you can get away from that kind of negative thought stream, you might be able to get more into a natural state of mind, which they say is joy.
And Kiana, do you have anything you'd like to add on that subject?
No, that's good.
Excellent. And if you're watching at home, we have a little bit of an internet issue, so there's a little bit of a delay between Dawn and myself and Kiana, so she wasn't ignoring me there. We just have a little bit of a delay. And real quick, Kiana, where's your hometown? We didn't talk about that for either one of you, so we'll get a little bit more background on both of you before we continue into this journey through mindfulness.
Sure, I live in the Duquesne area by Kennywood Park.
Okay.
I didn't grow up here, but it's one of the places I've landed.
Okay, and it's a beautiful part of Western Pennsylvania. And Dawn, where are you from originally, or where are you at now?
Well, I'm from Northern Virginia originally, and then I went to graduate school up in Syracuse, New York, and then I did an internship in New Haven, Connecticut, and then I've been here in southwestern PA since, and I'm up in South Hills right now.
Okay, excellent. And you see behind me, I'm on campus. We're airing some programming for some public service and public health, so I'm using the internet here to hopefully make sure this show continues to go through. But once again, thank you for both of you taking some time. And let's continue talking about mindfulness. And Dawn, we were talking a little bit about the theories and stuff, and I asked you because obviously this is one of the many topics and subject I know nothing about. So I had you both to send a couple questions. One of the questions you had on there is, if a student comes to you, what if they object to the mindfulness technique, or how do you try and steer them to that to help them ultimately?
Yeah, and actually, I think Kiana can address that first, and then I'll fill in.
Okay, Kiana, we'll bounce over to you.
Sure. So there are a variety of objections that we might experience when working with individuals when we try to propose the benefit of them utilizing mindfulness. Some things that I've heard are, I've tried it before and it doesn't work, or I've tried it and I don't think I'm doing it right, and so therefore I'm just not going to do it. And so for those individuals, it's important for us to impress upon them that it is a practice. And so by that, we mean, it is a way of life and a way of being and a way of doing. And so in those instances where they may have attempted it before and found that it wasn't useful, perhaps because it may not have been a practice, they're trying to call down a technique maybe in the middle of a crisis and may be misremembering how to apply it, or just not know how to allow it to work for them. And so there's a benefit to engaging in mindfulness as a practice so that it becomes very natural in those times of need, and to be able to call upon those techniques or measures that they have found to be useful or successful for them as a result of practicing it. There's also a subset of clients, from time to time, who may disagree or object to using it because maybe it conflicts, let's say, with their religious or spiritual beliefs. It's because mindfulness is rooted in Eastern practices. Someone who may identify as Christian, for example, will say, I don't know that I'm supposed to utilize mindfulness. And so for those types of clients, what I try to do is show them that they've already been doing mindfulness, as maybe their religious or spiritual practices have called for, and maybe it's just like a different name for it in terms of being able to meditate or concentrate, have those quiet moments. And then when I make it more relatable to them in those terms, then they kind of get on board with, being board using it.
Now, is that something you see a lot of, or is that something that comes up frequently? Is that people object to trying it because of religious beliefs, or is that an outlier?
Sometimes it can be 50-50 in terms of objections based on religious beliefs, but I have found that the best recourse to take in helping to overcome those objections is educating them on what it is and how it can be beneficial and how it already fits into their day-to-day practices. And so by educating them, they seem to be more on board with utilizing it.
Excellent. And Dawn, same question to you.
Yeah.
What would you tell the students if they're a little bit leery of trying these techniques?
Yeah, well, I agree with Kiana, and there are people who say, I tried meditation once and I didn't like it, or I tried yoga once, or I tried DBT, which is an emotional regulation technique, and I didn't like it. And I agree with Kiana that it really has to be a practice. And what they've found with research is that mindfulness training is really helpful to college students. They've looked particularly at this, specifically at this population, and shown that it helps with students' psychological well-being. It can decrease stress and anxiety and depression and other negative emotions. Um, and just anecdotally, when I use techniques, whether it be specifically mindfulness or just relaxation techniques in the office, I would say most of the students say that they feel a lot better. And not only better, they feel calmer and more able to do what they need to do. So they might come in all worried about like a test, or how am I going to get all this work done? And then we calm the body, and we know that there's a feedback loop to the brain. So you calm the body, you have to calm the brain. You give the brain a break from that negative thought loop, and people can have the perspective to say, yeah, actually, I can handle this. So it's kind of opening of perspective somehow.
Well, that kind of leads me into my next question, because we've been talking a lot about the technique. But if I'm a student at in college, as we all know, colleges change. It seems like college changes every 30 minutes with the students, with the lives and everything like that. But if I'm a student, what are some of the signs that in my life that maybe I should seek out help and maybe seek out some of the services? Because as I just said, it seems like today's world is 500 miles a minute, and sometimes it's you're not living in the moment. But what are some of the signs, either the students should look for themselves, or maybe they should look for in some of their friends, that maybe they need to utilize some of your services?
Kiana, did you want to start?
Sure. Sometimes students might notice within themselves or even within some of their peers some behavioral changes, such as, withdrawing, wanting to really be isolated and secluded, inexplicable changes in eating patterns or sleeping patterns, feeling on edge without being able to utilize coping skills that may have worked for them before, as well as you make maybe changes in the ability to concentrate, or just an overall sense of maybe feeling down or anxious, that they really can't, at least in that moment, put their finger on, what the source of this might be. So those might be some indications that some additional assistance and support is necessary, and that's why we're here, to be able to assist. Dawn, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just say, and that's perfect what you said, and I'll just say that most students come to us with anxiety, depression as part of the mix. Not always at a clinical level, but they'll say they're stressed or burned out, or like Kiana said, having some trouble sleeping or eating. So we see that a lot, and then we also see quite a bit of loneliness. And I think that's particularly worrisome right now. Humans are social creatures. And so this social distancing is hard for all of us. But I think when you're talking about young adults, like teens and young adults, the peer group, just developmentally, has become very important to them at this stage. And to not have those times to hang out, just with peers face to face, I bet that a lot of people are kind of suffering with that. So anyway, but typically it's depression and anxiety that tend to bring people in, because those are such unpleasant feelings.
Yeah, and you brought up something I was going to bring up in this next little part. Is I know that in our student groups, and I work closely with our TV and our radio students here. It seemed like there was a definitive, the semester, no one's going to be on campus. And, the students spent a lot of time in the media area doing their jobs here at the media area, but also just socializing and having one another's support. And I know that, there's a bunch of group chats we're on, and you can see that sometimes, or even more so now, they're craving that interaction, because sometimes the chats will go they used to go 1 or 2 messages whenever people saw each other, but now they're going 4 or 5 hours at a time, which is another struggle. But you can sense that they're craving that interaction. But with the students having to stop the interaction and having to go back home, what can they try and do to try and help make sense of everything and try and get everything under control? Because this is definitely something that has never happened before, thankfully. And how is the best way that can they get through these choppy waters?
Yeah, I'll say a few things, but then I know Kiana probably have some ideas too. Certainly trying to have some kind of a schedule is really important. There's somebody named Bessel van der Kolk. He's an MD. He's a trauma researcher and theorist and writer. He's probably the #1 trauma expert. And he was saying that we are probably, just about all of us, in this kind of pre-trauma stage where the conditions are ripe for somebody to develop a trauma reaction, and but that there are things we can do. So trying to activate the body, because that's one sign of trauma. People are, well, let's say that you're held at a gunpoint and you want to act and you can't. And so that not being able to act, so even getting out there and walking or doing a home project is good. There's also a lack of predictability, and that's a problem. And so if you make a schedule for yourself, that can be really useful. There's also, with trauma, there tends to be a lack of connection with others. People aren't believed, or they just don't feel like they're connected to themselves. And so he says, reach out and connect to other people. So all these different things can be really helpful when people are trying to deal with this, this social distancing.
And Kiana, would you like to add to that?
Yes, I'd like to add that, it's important to try to carve out time to have those quiet moments for yourself. Being back home, I know a lot of students are back home in their home environment. And so maybe there are a lot of people that are in the home, or there's constant engagement or interaction of trying to manage family life. Maybe if they have to work online, the work life, and then now because school is all online, having all of those different entities, pulling and vying for their attention, it's really important to be able to take a step back and, when possible, be able to carve out those quiet moments. And even in doing that, that's a way of being able to engage in mindfulness practice, have those quiet moments just to kind of rest and just kind of listen to what your body is saying, and what your mind is saying, and turn that focus back on yourself, even if it's just for 5 minutes. 5 minutes can go a long way in terms of caring for ourselves.
I know myself, I've been trying to not make myself, I enjoy it. I enjoy reading a lot, but I've been trying to read for about a half hour to an hour every night, and I've been stuck reading a bunch of Agatha Christie mysteries. So I don't know if that's doing the right job, because now I'm also like trying to look over my shoulder and find out who the murderer is in any situation. So I don't know if that's helping my mental technique at all, but I've been trying myself in my own life, trying to just, like you said, trying to find those quiet moments and disconnect from everything, because it's a new reality, and we have to adjust to it. And as we come up, we have about 3 or 4 minutes left. What are some of the if people want to learn more, what are some of the resources that are out there that your office can provide, or even outside of the office? What are some of the things that people can look into if they want to find out more? We'll go to Dawn first. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, okay. So we had a couple of exercises that we were going to do with people, but one way you can do this on your own, so mindfulness exercise. There's a good one called The Honest Guys. You can just Google The Honest Guys mindfulness meditation, and then it's guided 10 minutes. And I really like this one. I think it is what we're trying to have people do. Typically, when you're talking about mindfulness, it's a mindful meditation practice that's part of it. It's how you go through your day, but also mindful meditation itself can be really useful. And even if you just had 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night, it can be helpful. There's also a book called The Mindful Way Through Depression, and it's Mark Williams and John Kabat-Zinn and some other people, and it's full of really good ideas. They ask, can you take a friendly interest in your thoughts as mental events without becoming seduced by their content and emotional changes? So that's really good too. There's also Eckhart Tolle. Probably some of the listeners are familiar with him. He wrote The Power of Now. There's also some great videos that he has out there. So it's Tolle, Eckhart Tolle. He talks about the fact that the present moment actually always has limitations, and I think that's true. So often we're a little too bored, or a little too stimulated, or a little too lonely, or wanting to get away from people, or we're too tired, or we're too keyed up, And he says, can you acknowledge and appreciate the isness of things as they are? And I think he explains that very well. And just my final book is The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. He also has great videos out there, and he emphasizes the need to not continually get caught up in the negative evaluations of everything that happens, to experience them without always judging them. So then Kiana will tell us her resources, and then I kind of wanted to end with a quote, if I could.
Okay, yeah. We'll go to Kiana with some of your sources, and we'll come back to you, Dawn, for the end.
Okay, so the only other one that I have to add to what Dawn has already shared is there is a website, and it's called palouse.mindfulness.com, and that's PALOUSE. And what I like about this particular website is it's an 8-week mindfulness practice course. It is free, and it's very comprehensive in terms of explaining what mindfulness entails, but it also leads you daily and weekly through different exercises that can be anything from mindful eating to yoga to deep breathing, body scans, which all again are components of mindfulness. And again, its intention is to help with the reduction of stress. So it can be a useful tool, especially now in the time that we are all experiencing. And so I would encourage everyone to, visit that website and, check it out for more assistance.
And what I'm going to do, whenever this archives on YouTube, I'm going to ask both of you to send me those lists, and I can add those to the description at the bottom. That way, people have them right there. because that was a lot of information. I'm sure there's a lot of good information. We want to make sure that everyone at home and that are watching this can, if they're interested, they can get the proper, you can lead them on the proper path. So I'll talk to you after we're done with the production part of this to get the email. But as we're finishing up here, anything else either one of you would like to add about this? This has been very interesting. Like I said, I told both of you off air, I had no idea of anything, and I feel like now that I can see the benefits and really understand why this technique is so important.
Good. Well, yeah, we could really just give an overview. And in terms of the actual techniques, there are so many online, so it's pretty easy to look up mindfulness or mindfulness meditation. I'll see if Kiana wants to say anything, and then I'll end with a quote. Kiana, is there anything you wanted to add?
I just want to thank you, Gary, for providing this platform and providing us with this opportunity to share additional ways of assisting people who are now at home within the CalU community with being able to restore some calm or some peace into their day-to-day existence.
It's our pleasure, and you both have a home on this show. So anytime you want to come back on, just let me know, and we'll accommodate both of you. I bit my lip the other day on Easter Sunday, so I've also been struggling with a bad haircut and also a fat lip. So we're struggling through here. But like I said, you both are welcome to come back anytime and discuss anything, because this has been just an eye-opening experience. And Dawn, you said you wanted to end with a quote, so
yeah. And
the floor is yours. The virtual floor is yours.
All right, thank you. And I do want to say that I also really appreciate this opportunity, and I think you're doing a great job there, with putting out this content for our students. So this is by Thich Nhat Hanh, and he is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk who wrote a lot of books, but this is from This Is My Heart. And he says, this is a quote, "Peace can only exist in the present moment. It is ridiculous to say, wait until I finish this, then I will be free to live in peace. What is this? A diploma, a job, a house, the payment of a debt? If you think that way, peace will never come. There is always another this that will follow the present one. If you are not living in peace at this moment, you never will be able to. If you truly want to be at peace, you must be at peace right now. Otherwise, there is only the hope of peace someday."
Wow, that's very powerful, and that's a lot to digest. So I think I might spend the next half hour sitting here trying to absorb all of that. But that was a wonderful way to end. And like I said, I thank you both for being on the show. And I'm going to give out these last little links, and then I'm going to bring you back in. I've been asking this surprise question of all of our guests, but we have some links here at the Media Center that we want everyone to follow for updated information on any of the shows we do. Follow our Facebook page, which is just California University Television, or follow our Twitter, which is at CUTV_PA. And we'll be updating that with links and different shows that we're producing during this time, because our students have been really having fun with doing the distance shows. We've added a cooking show, we've added a golf lesson show, and we've also are in the beginning stages of adding a fishing show. Our friends over at the Cal Times are doing a great job of updating everything that is open, closed services, and all that. So follow their Twitter account at Cal Times. On Twitter, it's just at Cal Times. And then our friends at the radio station, 91.9 FM WCAL, the station is still on with their automated playlists. But on Spotify, virtually, they are putting together a collaborative playlist. So go to their Spotify, WCAL Spotify, it's WCAL Power 92, and you'll see a bunch of playlists, workout, study, meditation, party, and stuff. So the last question I have to both of you, it's a fun question. In the spirit of the collaborative playlist, and we're going to go in, it doesn't have to be any specific category, but if you had to add, we'll start with you, Dawn. If you had to add one song to the playlist for WCAL, what would be the song that you would add right now?
Oh, that's a tough one. Let's start with Kiana.
All right,
I'm not sure.
Kiana, she has chose pass, so you get to answer the question first. What is your go-to song right now that you would like to add to the playlist?
Hmm. I guess the first one that comes to mind is "Happy" by Pharrell, just
Okay.
because it kind of gets me up and just dancing around the house.
That's a
Now,
great that's a great song. Unfortunately for me, it brings back bad memories because my friend who won a fantasy football championship played that at the bar the entire night he celebrated. So there I am. I'm living in the past
No.
right now with that song. So but that's a great song. So Dawn,
okay, I
you had
got
a
one.
chance to think. So
I had to think for a second. I couldn't remember what it was called, but so I grew up in the 60s and 70s where they had the best music ever, if you ask me. I would say Good Morning Starshine. That's a really good one. So if you haven't heard it or haven't heard it in a while, it's an excellent song.
there you go. There's two more songs, and myself, I've been listening to some David Byrne. So there's three things, and make sure to add that to your playlist. So, ladies, thank you for being a part of the show today, and everybody back home, make sure to follow our social media to find out when the next Caillou Connections will be on the air. So, for my guests, I'm Gary Smith, and we'll see you next time.